After last night's game against the Denver Nuggets, the Clippers definitely realize that that's going to be a challenge for them going forward if they plan on trying to, make their way to the NBA Finals, make their first appearance there, because the Nuggets are going to be one of those teams definitely standing in their way, because that's the one team that seems like it just has the Clippers number. And, when you think about, the adding of Bones Hyland, specifically to the Clippers, it wasn't a good outing for him, last night versus former team. Of course, he would definitely love to get that win to kind of throw it in their face and maybe rub it in their face on Twitter, and maybe or with his comments in the post game if he had, the opportunity to do so if his team won, but they didn't. And, the thing I wanted to talk about was if these two teams play, I really would like to see them play in a 7-game series again, just to see how it would go, because I think it would be a great series. And I think, the Clippers definitely wouldn't mind erasing them or knocking them out the playoffs if they had the opportunity, based upon the history these two teams have, especially over the last couple years. But Bones Hyland, former coach Mike Malone, definitely sends some eye-opening comments in regards to Bones Hyland and, who he is as a player and everything. And to me, really, it was one of those type comments where I feel like Bones is definitely going to use that as motivation, or at least I hope he does, going forward and everything, because taking a shot at Bones Hyland, kind of sort of like that in that way or fashion, what I'm saying, it should just motivate players. It really shouldn't, allow them to have a hatred towards you or anything like that. It should push them to be better than what they were, even when they played for you previously. And, I was looking at clutchpoints.com, and when you read about what Mike Malone had said about Mason Plumlee, because he used to play for the Denver Nuggets as well. He said Mason Plumlee is probably like the best backup big in the NBA. And honestly, the way Mason Plumlee plays, I really can't disagree. I really can't disagree at all. You know what I'm saying? He's really, he can pass the ball. He can handle the ball decently. He could bring the ball up court. Sometimes he's actually the one on a fast break. You know what I'm saying? Running with the point guards and making plays that way. He averages like 3 or 4 assists a game. He's a good rebounder. He's an underrated shot blocker. I mean, really, honestly, I think the Clippers ought to think about starting him consistently going forward and let Zubac's ass come off the bench, really, because, really, you got more in this dude physically, stronger, more, and he has more of a dominant mentality than Zubac has. Zubac is more of a passive type big man. He not passive as in like he passes the ball. I'm talking about passive as in like passive aggressive. Like he's not really like edgy. He doesn't have that edge to him, that dog in him. He only shows it at times, where Mason Plumlee shows it every time he's on the court. And that's what the Clippers have been missing as well in that center position. But the shot that I felt like Denver's coach Mike Malone threw at Bones Hyland, even though Bones Hyland definitely was speaking a little bit about, Denver a couple weeks prior to this matchup, saying that, he felt slighted basically. And, it was the communication was low and everything like that before the trades. And, but Mike Malone comes back, and when he was asked about Bones Hyland, his progression and all those things, and what do you think of him as a player, all that type stuff, Mike Malone just responds, "I wish him all the best." And so that tells you there is some bad blood, some type of bad blood between Bones and the organization and or between that coach. So, I definitely, honestly, that right there makes me want to see these two teams play in a 7-game series, because it will make it that much more entertaining, exciting. And the fact that, as I said before, the Clippers having history with this team, it would be, the Clippers would feel almost as if they probably won a championship if they knocked that team off in a 7-game series. So, I'm pretty sure that's what's going to come to. And honestly, I truly believe that might be the Western Conference Finals. A lot of people might speak about Kevin Durant and things like that, but KD is, still nursing the injury. He has to come back, and he's going to come back with the Phoenix Suns and everything. He's supposed to come back, I think, Wednesday against the Charlotte Hornets, which is a good, way to come back, because that's should be an easy victory, and that's a good way to get your feet wet playing against a team that's no damn good. So that's a good way to, kind of get your feet under you and kind of get your rhythm going a little bit and see where you could take it from there. But I don't know if the chemistry will be built and quick enough for this team for them to win, especially with them basically having a big two, because Chris Paul really kind of isn't the player that he was. Now, he can still facilitate, but when it comes down to putting up points the way he used to, is he going to be able to do that if somebody neutralizes Devin Booker from being the player that he usually is on a nightly basis of putting up points and, consistently playing at that level, which that can happen in the playoffs. We saw it happen last year with the Phoenix Suns. So personally, I believe there's a very good chance where we might see the Nuggets and the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. And if that happens, the Clippers are going to have to bring a whole lot more game than what they brought last night. And Bones Hyland might have to be a lot more involved in those games, more than what he probably was last night offensively and everything, because even though, he, kind of stumbled a little bit himself, in the game, he didn't really do the greatest. But at the same time, Bones does good for the, minutes that he's in there, or however long he's going to be in there. And he's going to be that way going forward for the Clippers because he's a blur. He's fast. He can get to the rim. He's going to be really good for them going forward for the minutes that he's going to log in with the Clippers as one of their players. So I think he can, I think he's a really, good up and coming young, talent on their team. Him, Brandon Boston, those guys. But of course, you don't see those guys because they've been in and out the G League. But I think Bones Hyland can definitely take that next step as one of their young future players if the Clippers keep him. But this rivalry between these two teams, really, like I said, it's gotten more interesting based upon last night, because I personally think that the Clippers as a team, they have a better team. Well, I'm not gonna say they have a better team than Denver, because if they did, they would beat them. But what I'm saying is the Clippers have more talent on their team to me than the Denver Nuggets do, but they just don't really have the chemistry. And I think if this team can really, stay healthy and keep it together, there's a possible chance. But as I said before, as long as you got Russell Westbrook on your team, it's going to be hard to win a championship, because in situations he's going to make turnovers, and Paul George is going to turn the damn ball over silly the way he does at times too. And nobody really talks about Paul George turnovers, and they really need to start talking about them, because really some of his turnovers are untimely as well. I mean, he will turn the ball over in the fourth quarter at times where it's like the Clippers are trying to build, their momentum or make a run and make a comeback, or they got a lead that they feel like that's decent or substantial, and Paul George makes a couple bad reads, a couple bad decisions, and then all of a sudden, the other team, they go on an 8-0, 10-0 run. Now the momentum has flipped. And I'm not saying Paul George is to blame of that every single time, because he's not. Paul George puts up great numbers, but the problem I've always had with Paul George is when he makes mistakes, it's always at the wrong time. When he goes cold, it's always at the wrong time. So like most time when you see Paul George, the reason why he got the nickname Playoff Way Off P is because he goes cold in the playoffs, the time you need to be at your hottest. You know what I'm saying? And then there's times where he has turnovers himself. Nowadays, talking about the present, there's times where he has, nights like, it was about 2 weeks ago. It was a game I looked at, but regardless, he has nights where he just, since they've been having him run as a point guard, he has nights where he's really, just making silly decisions. And even when he doesn't run as a point guard, he still makes silly decisions sometimes in certain things that he's doing. And these things got to get better. But I'm not here to bash Paul George, because he is a star player and he can make up for it with his points and his production on the offensive end. So I'm not really too worried about Paul George. I just need Paul George to tighten up the screws a little bit, get a little bit more concise. If you're going to be in that point guard role at times, the way Ty Lue has you doing, which I don't agree with, you got to be a little bit better in that area. And I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe Kawhi has to score more. I don't know what it is with this team. Maybe Kawhi needs to score 55 points instead of 44 points so they can win, so they could beat the Sacramento Kings 180, 186 or 185 to 176. I don't know. I mean, maybe Kawhi needs to do more. Maybe he needs to be more of a dominant player. I really don't know what needs to go on with this team. I mean, I personally don't believe that Kawhi is as dominant as he can be. He looks great. He looks like the superstar he was before he got hurt. I mean, he's really putting up great numbers, and this team is wasting a lot of his efforts with, these good games he's having, and they're wasting them by losing these games by not playing defense. And the one thing, I think, with the Clippers in Denver, defense is going to have to be the Clippers' MO. They can't really worry about their offense against this team because offensively, they just don't seem to really gel the way Denver does. Denver gels as in like their offense flows. There's more ball movement. Jokic is a great passer. Great player at that, and Michael Porter Jr. seems to kill the Clippers. So I mean, this whole rivalry is definitely interesting, but at the same time, Bones is the one that's stuck in the middle here because he's the one that came from Denver the most recently, and he's the one that's on this. He's the one that's going to be spotlighted a lot if they have to play the Denver Nuggets. So hopefully, for the Clippers' sake, they get the best out of Bones Hyland in the playoffs because they're going to need it if they have to face this team again. Because I don't know what Russell Westbrook gives them is good enough for them to win, because Russ is going to give you turnovers like he did in Sacramento. That game with Sacramento, he's going to give you turnovers other games. He's going to give you triple doubles, nearly triple doubles at times. But if he has 7 assists, he might have 6 turnovers. You see what I'm saying? If he has 10 assists, he might have 8, 9 turnovers. And this is what you got to deal with Russ. And I just don't know if all that's really going to, triculate, to or come to a championship. I just don't know how. I don't really see how that's going to happen. I mean, but like I said, I have to be optimistic because Kawhi is on the Clippers, and Kawhi can do a lot of great things, even when he has to put a team on his back, as we saw in Toronto. So maybe Kawhi can turn into that Toronto Kawhi Leonard and really take this team to the promised land, because honestly, I really think that's what he's going to have to do. I just don't know. I don't see how this team is going to gel so fast with all these moving parts and moving pieces that just came in, and they're on a quest to win a championship. I mean, that is very, very difficult to do. You have to have more, consistency and conciseness in your lineups and your team and your roster to win championships. I mean, adding one person here or there in a trade deadline is one thing, but when you're adding multiple people and you're adding another superstar caliber type player, which a lot of people think Russell Westbrook still is, that's a lot when you're trying to win a championship. You know what I'm saying? With the addition of 3 other players that you got that's supposed to come in and play at a high level to make your team a championship team in areas that you lacked in. So I mean, these are very, very dire situations. When you look at all the totality of everything the Clippers are doing. And as I said before, I don't know how happy or pleased Kawhi is about all this, but Kawhi doesn't speak; his actions do the talking. So we saw Kawhi, throw a bombshell on the world a couple years ago. Everybody thought he was going to the Lakers, and he goes to the Clippers. So if this team don't win a championship, understand there might be another earthquake or a bombshell here where we all have to endure it again, because nobody knows what Kawhi is thinking. They just know that Kawhi likes to win. And that's the only thing we really all know about Kawhi Leonard. Winning is everything. So Bones Hyland, all these players, Russell Westbrook, I'm like I said, they're going to have to win it. They're going to have to win it. Like I said, bare minimum make the finals, but really they need to just go ahead and win it because, I mean, you got all the pieces you need. Denver shouldn't be beating you the way they are now with all the pieces that you have, with all the depth that you have. It's just, like I said, the Clippers, they just don't want to play defense, and, that this rivalry between them and Denver it's going to extend pretty far. And like I said, Bones Hyland is going to be in the middle of it just because of his history of being on the Denver Nuggets and being a part of that team and being a part of that winning team the way they were. They were the number 1 seed when they had, Bones Hyland in the lineup. Now they're still basically the number 1 seed or at the top without Bones Hyland. So the history there is always going to be compared to these two teams playing the playoffs, in which I do believe they will. I just really do, because I don't see if the Clippers are going to go far, they're not going to get past Denver, because Denver is going to probably they're probably going to go far in the playoffs too. So I mean, I hope Bones Hyland really get more reps with the Clippers and not get slighted, because they're going to need everything he can do. His speed, his way of getting to the basket, and his passing ability, they're going to need all that. The only problem is Denver knows a lot of Bones Hyland game. So I don't know how effective he can be in a 7-game series when the Denver Nuggets know every damn move, every spin move, every step back, every move this guy does, because they watched him in practice. They drafted him. You know what I'm saying? They watched him. They watched him in practice. You know what I'm saying? So, and like I said, plus they drafted him. So it's like they know everything he's about. They know all his moves. They know what he like to do. They know he goes, basically he likes to go left and blow past you and be a blur and get to the basket and finish. They know he likes to do things like that, preferably. So it's like it's going to be tough for him to really, and ingratiate himself if they have to play this team specifically. But, definitely I hope he can find a way, and hope he can find a way to throw back, those words and throw them back in Mike Malone's face, because Mike Malone, even though I admire him as a coach, I feel like he comes off kind of cocky at times. Just certain things that he says in his post games, things like that, and certain things I hear him say, when I see some YouTube clips of him and doing post game interviews and things like that, he kind of comes off a little cocky at times. That's just my opinion. But my point is, I really hope Bones can, throw it back in their face, as I said, and I hope he can play well, and I hope, he can help the Clippers give them something that they didn't have, which is a blur like him who can pass and who can score and who can shoot, who can stretch the floor. He's not that great defensively, but at the same time, he'll disrupt something because he's lengthy. So, I mean, it's like it definitely doesn't hurt, too much with him on that end. But at the same time, it's going to be tough for the Clippers. It's going to be really tough. So, as I said before, I'm like I said, I'm just not sure. Really, the Clippers, I really hope the Russell Westbrook doesn't fall back in their face, or that doesn't, come back to them for making that mistake or something like that. I hope it's not a mistake, signing Russ. I hope Russ was the perfect, antidote to what they need to get over the hump. And, I hope that serves them well going forward if they're trying to win a championship. It's just going to be tough, and it's just hard for me to see it. It's hard for me to see championship. It's hard for me to have confidence in this team based upon what I'm seeing. And like I said, it's only been a couple games. Russ has been there, but damn, 176 points. You can't give up 176 points to anybody in the NBA unless it's an all-star team, or unless you're an all-star team going against an all-star team like we saw at the all-star game. They had like 184 points to 170, 180 something, right? Like that. I mean, you give up 176 points to the Sacramento Kings. Good gracious. I mean, I don't know if Russell's presence is that bad or Russell's presence made it that different for the Clippers, but I would have never thought I'd seen a Clippers team give up that many points to anybody, because they got so many good defenders. How is that even possible? You got Rocco, you got Marcus Morris, you got Kawhi, PG. I mean, and now you got Mason Plumlee who can defend. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, how is that even possible? You're letting a team like that do that who doesn't even have a superstar. The Kings don't have a superstar. De'Aaron Fox is good, but he ain't no damn superstar. De'Aaron Fox is barely even known out the damn world. If you go around the world and ask people who the hell De'Aaron Fox is, they'll be like, "Is that your cousin? Is that a friend of yours?" They wouldn't even know who the hell he is. Because Sacramento is not a place in California a lot of people look at as a highly well-known place, even though it really should be, but it's not. And it's really mainly due to the fact that the basketball team has been trashed for so long, up until De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis has made this team a little bit more formidable and respectable the way they are now. And now they're the 3 seed, and the Clippers gave up that many points to a team who doesn't even have a superstar. And if you're going to give up that many points, shouldn't you give it up to a team that has superstars on it? Shouldn't you give it up to a team like the Phoenix Suns with Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker? If you're going to give up that many points, it should be to a team with superstars on it, not a team with barely an all-star. I mean, that's why I said the Clippers, they just got to get better. And honestly, I mean, I know it's one game, but that one game dictated a lot. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's Russell's presence that made them play that way, but if his presence is going to bring those type of outings, they need to get rid of Russell Westbrook now, because they won't giving up 176 points before they had Russell Westbrook. They won't giving up 176 points when they didn't have a point guard. They won't give up 176 points when they were, when they didn't have the center position filled like that, when they were short on the center position, they didn't give 176 points. I mean, hell, they shouldn't give up over 150 to any team, because all the defensive players they have and all the length and the wings they have and all the defense, and that's unheard of. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And even Kawhi Leonard said after the game, he said, that's crazy, because it's like, come on. It's like these dudes are not even playing with effort half the nights. And like I said before, if the Clippers go out there and don't play with the effort, they will get their ass knocked out early. And if this team gets knocked out early, as a Clippers fan, you better be damn worried, because Kawhi Leonard does not condone losing. He does not. I don't give a damn who is on that roster. I don't give a damn who he likes on the Clippers. He is not going to sacrifice his best winning percentage, which he's the most winningest player of all time, for a team of a bunch of players who don't want to go out there and do their job consistently and become a championship team, which everybody can see them be, and which they're not doing. So hopefully everything gets better, and I'm going to leave it at that. And we're going to see where it goes from here. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments in the comment section. Check my other videos if you haven't. Also, like, subscribe if you haven't as well. And hey, till next time.